Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today we're going to be reacting to The Way of Love Part 2 by Swami Sarvapriyananda. Alright, let's go ahead and get started.
Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. Good morning. It's a wonderful day, a very warm day outside and warm inside too. For this morning we're going to speak about the way of love. And there's a special magic in love. Today's talk is a continuation of what we were discussing last Sunday. Love of God, but a very special kind of love. The higher practice of bhakti. You see, there is a kind of bhakti where love of God, where we approach God to solve our problems. I'm suffering, or somebody close to me is suffering, and I pray to God. There's this lady who wrote a beautiful book about religion in the 21st century, and she says that she was an atheist, or at least not interested in God. But then her son was suffering from a very severe disease, and in the hospital, while his treatment was going on, they have chapels in the hospitals. So she says, I don't know why I just went there to sit quietly with no intention to pray, but I found myself praying. There's a saying that there are no atheists in the foxholes, in the trenches, in the war, no atheists. So when I am in trouble, when I'm suffering, I reach out to God. That's one kind of bhakti. There's another kind of bhakti. I'm not in trouble, but I want something. There's no problem in my life, but there's something more that I want to make my life better. It's good, but I want it to be better. I want money, relationships, or something, or a parking spot, something. They are equally important in Manhattan.
I was thinking about what it's saying here, and I don't know. I mean, do you really want to consider bhakti to someone who's like, well, they were atheistic, and all of a sudden they start praying to God because they're in a bad time in their life. There's someone suffering, they're suffering, and then they turn to God. Me in my past, that would be a sign of weakness. But don't get me wrong, it is genuinely your most fragile moment. That is at your weakest. So it is a sign of weakness, but not in a bad sense. But at the same time, is it genuine? I've always thought this to be kind of a sad thing, again, my old me, where you have people who are atheistic and then in their deathbed they accept God. It made me wonder, would I be the same way? I don't know. I don't think so, but you never know. And then the transactional one here. So the first one, I think you did discuss this in the last video. The first one being during hard times, suffering, you'll turn to something. But that's kind of, excuse me, that's kind of weird to do that though. I'm thinking, trying to think of, is that a good thing? And then the regular transaction, the really meaningless one, I guess, is like, oh, please let there be a parking spot. The first one being when you're suffering can be genuine, but it's kind of weird. It's actually something that I did when I was younger, but it's more the second one where I was like, let me pass first grade, because I had no faith in myself. I had little faith in my ability, so I'd always pray that I pass. And every time that report card came in, I pass. And I forgot, it was like 3 years I did that. And the fourth year, it's like, let me try. Let me just let it be. And I passed, and I never did ever since. So I guess that was kind of like a turning point in my life a little bit, to where I'm like, I was raised Catholic, because that was kind of, I think it's Catholic. I think because that was the major religion in my country, and it was kind of taken over. But yeah, and I started thinking about things. I was still a believer, but I started thinking about things.
So I want something. That's also another kind of bhakti, and you send out a prayer to God. And there's nothing wrong in this kind of bhakti. Because why it is not wrong, although the demands are worldly, but still you are making the demand of God. You are praying to God. You have a person has some kind of belief. In fact, most of the crowds filling up churches and temples and mosques all over the world, most of them, they belong to this category. Either they want something, or they are suffering and they want to be relieved of suffering, or maybe they don't want anything specifically, but the feeling is, if I believe in God, if I worship God, if I do my religious rituals sincerely, my life will be better for it. You see the logic. You might say, what's wrong with that? Nothing at all. Nothing at all. And Sri Krishna himself in the Gita says that there are different kinds of bhaktas and includes these two, artha and artharthi, those who are in distress and those who want something. And they are also devotees. They are also believers in God. They are also religious people. But today we are not going to talk about that kind of faith in God or that kind of love of God. You see, one may love God for two reasons. One approach could be, I want God to improve my life. God as something, as an add-on, a topping on your pizza. So it makes my life better. A dash of religion, a sprinkling of rituals makes my life better. It's tastier. It's a better life. It's fashionable to go to church or temple or something. That's one kind of approach, where you're using God to improve your life, for a better life. The other approach is where life is for God, where you are fundamentally a spiritual seeker. What do I want in life? I want enlightenment. I want God. I want nirvana. I want moksha. Why do you go to God? Because I love you.
Now, this is what I thought it would. This is what I thought about religion. It should be, about loving God, not demanding something from God, not asking of God of anything. If he wants to give you something, then he will do it. All you do is just pray and worship him, and that's it. But the things that I see was the first two, again, about, people who are non-believers who become believers in their deathbed. People who go to church, wanting something from God. I've always found those two to be very questionable. Like, you don't ask. I don't know why I thought that you don't ask God for anything. Should I say demand? You can ask, but you don't ask for you don't ask for like, oh, let me be a millionaire or rich or anything. You ask for things that you need, and you don't ask for it often because you're becoming too needy. I guess that's just my mentality at the time. And the third one, the one he's going to explain here, is what I thought it should be, but I didn't really see that. I see people saying that, but when they act and do things, it's usually on the second one he's talking about.
Sri Ramakrishna once, he loved Swami Vivekananda so much, the young boy Narendra. And he praised Narendra to the skies, and he would always give all attention to Narendra. But one day, he stopped paying any attention to Narendra. He would come and sit in Dakshineshwar, and Sri Ramakrishna would turn his face away and would not talk about him, talk to him, even look at him. Narendra quietly would come and sit, and then he would leave, and then again the next time he would come, then again he would go back. No problem. Absolutely calm. One day Sri Ramakrishna said to him harshly, I don't even talk to you. I don't even look at you. Why do you come? And Narendra smiled and said, I come because I love you. I'm happy to be with you. You don't have to look at me. You don't have to pay attention to me. So my life is for God. I am here because I love God. That is the second approach. A higher approach, a purer love. It's the higher practice of bhakti, and that's what we are going to speak about this morning. It's an extraordinary thing. How does one go from the first approach to the second approach, from God for my life to my life for God? How do you do that?
Oh wait, so the under stress, duress, and transactional are the first one. Okay, I thought he said the first one was stress and the rest. I can see that as being one category. The transactional, where we say, "Oh God, give me this. Oh, let there be a parking spot." Making demands of God being number two, and the third one being just loving God, not asking of anything.
Here is a simple practice. All of us can do it. When I next go to God, to the temple, to the church, in the Vedanta Society, in front of the picture of the Lord, in front of Sri Bhagavan, let me go with this thing. The moment I step in there, let me cast off all my other, attributes. That who am I when I go in front of God? I am a lover of God. But I'm also a father. No. A husband or a wife or an executive in a company or a person who is suffering from health problems or financial problems. No. Leave all of that aside. Drop it when you walk through the portals of God's house. Drop all associations, all your, what in Vedanta it is called upadhi. Everything else extraneous, just drop it. I am coming to God as a bhakta, as a lover of God. What else are you? You're certainly a husband or a wife. All that I set aside.
I wish you used the phrase that Sadhguru would say, drop all your identities. Just come as just the one identity.
All problems associated with that, all demands and desires associated with the rest of my life, I leave it aside. I come to God simply as a child of God, as a lover of God, as a servant of God. That is the central practice. And all else that I will do today, we will talk about today, it goes to show how we can do that. So the central practice, again, for the higher practice of bhakti, is I come to God as a lover of God. I am here before you, my Lord, as I love you. That's why I am here. I don't want anything else of you. I just want to love you. That's all. It's a very powerful practice. Now, the question will be, that's true, it's a nice attitude to take, but it also, the point is that I also have a life. It's that my life doesn't go away. I have problems, physical problems, I have relationship problems, I have financial problems, I have things to do in life, things to achieve in life, and so on and so forth. And so how do I reconcile all of that with this pure practice of bhakti? How do I do that? And in this pure practice of bhakti, in the pure love, the technique is this. It is to dedicate everything else to God. All laukika and alaukika, the religious and secular activities, the dimensions of my life, I surrender unto the Lord. Certainly all religious practices, whether you're going to church or temple, whether you're praying or meditating or doing pranayama or practicing yoga, anything that you consider to be religious and spiritual, the attitude should be that I am doing it because I love thee and thou will be pleased with this. That's all. That's why I'm doing it. Whether you go on a pilgrimage to Kailash or Manasarovar or Amarnath or whatever, the whole point is I don't want anything else out of it. This is my worship of you, of thou. I worship my Lord in these ways. But not only religious activities, all our day-to-day activities, everything can be done for the sake of God. Yad karoshi yadat ashnasi. In Gita it is said, Krishna says to Arjuna, whatever you do in life, when you are walking, think I'm walking to the temple of the Lord. You may not be, but then in a deeper sense, where is not the temple of the Lord? So have that attitude, I'm walking to the temple of the Lord, or I'm driving to the temple of the Lord. When you're eating, I'm offering this to the Lord. It's an offering to God. When I'm speaking with others, I'm speaking with the children of the Lord, or I'm speaking to the Lord himself or herself in that particular person. So connect all the activities that we do throughout the day with God. The problem with our usual spiritual practices, repeating the mantra or meditating, the question constantly comes that, Swami, my mind wanders. Everybody asks this question.
Before he gets to that, this is something that I can see, and for those who are atheistic, how to say, to accept, I guess, everything as God, including yourself. That's a bit odd, because I guess the definition itself contradicts atheism. But you could see as existence being, I don't know how would I explain this. I'm trying to think of a sense of an atheist. I am one, but I understand this in a different sense, where everything is God. So, but that's to say that everything is existence. There's this thing that creates existence, which you can call God, but it's not the same. It's not the same as God in religion. It's different. It's literally just existence itself. To call existence God, basically. You can just replace God with existence as well to explain to an atheist, and then therefore you are existence. And then to translate that into to do things for yourself, because if you could just substitute existence in God, then you do things for yourself, devote it to yourself. But of course, you got to be careful to not make sure you don't become completely selfish, where you just, how do I say, just ignore everyone else. There are different levels, of course. Take care of yourself, of course, but be kind to others and help others if you can. I'm trying to find a way to explain that. Like, I get it, but I don't know how to kind of translate that to someone who's atheistic. It's very easy to do this for someone who's religious, because they already believe in the concept, but they probably would not do the one where you are God. The religious would have the duality perspective of this, and it's very easy to explain and very easy to get to that, because they're already there. They just need a little bit fine-tuning or a little bit of an explanation. And then to get to the non-duality, that's where I think an atheist could see it, but I was trying to think of how to explain that. It would have to be an atheist would have to understand in a materialistic point of view, which I can kind of explain, which is basically everything is made out of this thing, this one thing that's the smallest thing in the world, that you can't see anything smaller than that, and it's in everything that exists. Call it Brahman. So everything's Brahman, everything's created out of Brahman, you are Brahman because you're created out of Brahman, and then, but I don't know how to turn that to a devotion to yourself. But I guess to be practical, to give what you do in life 110%, as they say. And I think that's a good way to look at it. I need to formulate that a little bit better so it's not so jumbled. But yes.
So when you have a Q&A session, that one question will always be there. My mind wanders all over the place. How can I control my mind? And you need not be ashamed of that. We have very good predecessors. Arjuna asks this question to Krishna. When Krishna teaches him meditation, Arjuna says, good, the meditation you have taught me is perfectly useless. Krishna says, what? Yes, because the mind is difficult to control. It doesn't come under control. In that case, connect all activities to God. Connect all activities to God and do whatever you are doing. The mind will be engaged in that activity, but I'm doing it for the Lord. That attitude, if you get. You see, connecting everything to God is an acknowledgement of a great truth. What is the truth? That everything does really belong to God. Everything in the world belongs to God. Even our own bodies, our minds, everything is a creation of the Lord. Sri Bhagavan has created this entire universe. You or I wouldn't remain alive for 1 minute without a breath of air, without the physiological processes going on in our bodies. How much of that is done consciously? How much of that is done deliberately? Nothing. You will say that, science has explained it all, it's the power of nature. So that's a different paradigm. Here, everything that nature does, Prakriti, is the power of God.
So, and like I was saying a little bit earlier with the jumbled message that I said, a lot of it I can translate one-to-one between the materialistic world and this world. That way, I think people who don't believe can understand it, and that's how I'm understanding it. I see both points of views, and I keep them categorized in different, like, this is how it translates in the materialistic point of view, this is how it translates in Advaita Vedanta, or how Swami is saying it, and this is how, whenever I talk to different people and how they understand the world, I can pick out which category best suits them. Or if I notice they have some things in Advaita Vedanta and some things in the material world, I can mix and match because I have them categorized, not well, but I have them categorized to where I think I can explain it pretty well. And this is kind of how I have the three worldviews: material, the kind of in between, and then Advaita Vedanta. How I understand three different things. And I can kind of explain them for the most part because this is a scientific point of view. It's all materialistic. Richard Dawkins, I believe, and then they have the Advaita Vedanta where everything is pure consciousness. Then I have this middle ground to where it's like it's a mix between the Advaita Vedanta and the material world. But yeah, I don't want to go deep into explaining that. Let's continue.
Sri Bhagavan's power. Everything in this world is done by the will of the Lord. Everything in this world belongs to the Lord. The wealth with which you worship the Lord, it's the Lord's. Our John Rockefeller, when he was an upcoming entrepreneur, somebody said there's this interesting monk from India, and so Rockefeller went to meet him, and he was building up his empire at that time. And there's a very interesting dialogue between him and Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda told him that all this wealth that you're accumulating, it's the Lord's wealth, and you are a trustee and use it for the welfare of the world. And Rockefeller did not like that at all. He was not a philanthropist at that time. He didn't like that. He stalked out. But something went on in his mind. A few days later, he came back to the house where Swami Vivekananda was staying, and he said, "Can I meet that monk? He's in the study." So he strode into the study, and Swamiji was reading something or writing something. I think the account goes that way. And Rockefeller he stood in front, Swami didn't look up, he threw a check in front of the Swami. "Look, it's a big donation to a good charity." That was his first donation, it seems. So here is something that I'm giving for a good cause. No response from Swamiji. He went on reading. And then Rockefeller says, "You should thank me." The Swami looked up and said, "It is for you to thank me." And then went back to his work. And that person becomes transformed into a great philanthropist. This idea that all that we possess is God's possession. We are using it. We are trustees of that. So when we dedicate everything to the Lord, then we are actually acknowledging a great truth. There was a man who was going on a camel.
Before it gets to that story, I do wonder what the Rockefeller. I definitely need to read up on that story. At least that one little section. What did he think? What made him change his mind? What did he actually complete the donation, or did he take it back? Did he get offended by the Swami? I'm wondering the transaction. I wish you'd go a little bit details about that.
And he had a big bundle of his personal possessions, and he felt bad for the camel. It's so heavy, the poor camel is taking me and the bundle, so let me take the bundle and put it on my head. It's still the camel who is carrying you and the bundle on your head. In the same way, every responsibility is the Lord's responsibility. Actually, we will execute our duties, we will do everything that we are sent here to do, but know that Sri Ramakrishna used to say, even a single leaf does not move without the will of the Lord in this universe, though we know it not. Another variation of the story is also very, very nice. Somebody was traveling in a train, and he had a big bundle of his possessions. In India, they still do that. They'll bundle it up in a big piece of cloth, whatever their worldly possessions are. Not that it's relevant, but I just remember the image comes to my mind. We had a very senior monk, a wonderful Swami. He passed away a few years ago. He used to, every day it was his practice in the evening, all his possessions in life, he would bundle it up and tie a big bundle and put it over his shoulder and walk thrice around his little room and then put it down and unpack everything and put everything back in its place. And he was in his 80s at that time. So somebody asked him, "What is it that you do?" He said, "I am a monk. Tomorrow, if they ask me to leave this monastery," and he's been there for 60 years, so nobody's going to ask him to leave. But you see, that's his attitude. I'll walk out. I depend only on God. I live under a tree and die under a tree. Doesn't matter. So I make sure that I'm free. All my possessions I put into a bundle, and I walk thrice around the room to know that I can walk out anytime I want. Anyway.
Wow, that's kind of it's like living life like, well, any day I could be kicked out. Let me go ahead and just bundle it up and practice leaving this place. It's kind of a, I don't know if that's a good way to look at things, but I mean, at least you're prepared, I suppose.
So everything belongs to the Lord. The person was going in a train with this bundle, and he was keeping it on his head, sitting there. Exactly the opposite of what that person did in the camel story. And somebody sitting in front of him in the train said, "Look, put it down at your feet. The train which is carrying you to your destination will also carry your bundle to your destination." And so he was very relieved. He put it down at his feet. That's true. All our bundle, desires, sorrows, grievances, our little personal histories, take the whole bundle and put it at the feet of the Lord. The Lord will take responsibility for you. It's an enormous relief. You don't know how light you feel afterwards. It belongs to the Lord. The entire universe belongs to the Lord. When Swami Ramakrishnananda was in Chennai, it was Madras at that time, and starting the Ramakrishna Mutt in Madras, so one of the devotees who is to come was a very serious individual who would come and sit with the Swami and discuss his plans for social reform. Would say, this is what I want to do to reform Indian society, these are the projects that I want to take up, and so on and so forth. Then the Swami listened to him carefully, quietly, once, twice, thrice, and then one day when he started again on his big plans of social reforms and to have to do this, have to do that, the Swami said quietly, I wonder what God did before you were born. I wonder what God did before you were born. So this entire universe belongs to the Lord, including our little lives. It all belongs to the Lord. Acknowledge that and connect everything to the Lord. Offer everything up to the Lord.
Whenever he's talking about, I didn't want to pause it yet, but he was talking about how, you know, the person in the train just decides to put his worldly belongings on the train itself. It reminded me of a story of someone religious that explained a story like this lady was living in this house, and it was I think a hurricane came, was flooded. She went to the roof of the house, and because everywhere is flooded, it flooded so high that, you know, the tip top of her roof was the only dry spot, and anything a little bit below that was all flooded underwater. And she prayed to God saying, please send someone to help me. And, you know, a few minutes later, a guy comes by in a boat. It's like, hey, do you need help? And she says, no, I've asked God for help. I don't need your help. God will send someone for me. And it's like, I have a boat you can get on right now. It's like, no, God will send me some help. And the guy's just like, okay, and he goes on by. And then the lady again prays again. It's like, God, please send me someone. And then another guy comes on a boat. And it's like, hey, do you need help? You know, I got a boat. You know, taking you to a shelter. He says, no, God will send me someone. I don't need your help. God will take care of me. Guy said, all right, and continued on by. And again, the third time she prayed again. Another person came up and she denied him. And then I think the story goes that she ended up dying because she got cold or whatever. And then when she went to heaven, it's like, God, why didn't you send anyone to help me? The guy was like, dude, I sent you 3 people. You denied all of them. So I guess the point of that story is to, you know, I think the point of the story basically is the fact that don't just sit there and say God will take care of me. Take action too, you know. Like when you see help there, you know, take it when you can. Again, be careful though. But yeah, it's like, don't sit there and think that God will literally come down and help you. But to, you know, there are certain signs like, hey, you know, there's someone coming here to help you in your time of need. Accept the help. That's kind of, it reminded me of that part, because in the train store, I didn't know how necessarily to interpret it. It could be interpreted that you still do your actions while in the train, or that you kind of just lay down in the train and the train will take care of you and you don't have to do anything, which is what the story also explains, the fact that she just sat there and thought that God was going to literally come down and take her away. At the end of the story, technically did, but instead, the help came, but you didn't accept it. So
there is this concept in Hinduism, a very nice concept. All Indians will immediately recognize the word. It's called prasad. Prasad means it's consecrated food. You offer it to God. Oh Lord, take this, flowers and fruit and incense and everything. And all the food items are also offered to God. And then all the devotees partake of it as the Lord's prasad. The Lord has taken of it, and then we share it. That is, the food is divinized. They actually say, there is a whole theology of prasada, that a sattvic quality comes into the food. In fact, one of the practices that we do, and all of us can do that from now on, everything that you eat, whether it's your full meal or a snack that you want to take or a glass of water, mentally offer it to the Lord. Lord, take this, accept this. And I'm taking it as your prasad. It's a practice we can do lifelong. I think just about every monk I know does it. And it's open to everybody. Everybody can do this practice. Offer it to the Lord and it becomes prasad mentally. Mentally offer it and it becomes prasad. There is a beautiful story about Vishnu Priya. She was the wife of Nimai, who became Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So after he became a monk and he left home, she remained in Nadia all her life, and she was a great spiritual practitioner, aspirant herself, of a great spiritual sadhika herself. Wonderful life she led. One of the practices which Vishnu Priya did was every day she would chant the mantra, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, and she had this mound of rice before her. She would take up one grain of rice and set it aside. Then again chant the mantra, take up another grain of rice and set it aside. And again chant the mantra, take up a third grain of rice and set it aside. And after the practice was over, whatever rice was collected there, that would be her food for the day. So imagine, the whole thing becomes prasad. Holy Mother was asked, we set out all this food before the Master and do the puja. Does the Lord actually accept this? And the Holy Mother said, actually he does. The Lord does. When you offer food to God in a proper way, with devotion, with piety, with love, the Lord actually accepts it. So you might say that the food is still the same. It hasn't become less. The Lord hasn't eaten it. But she explained it. The Lord takes an essence of the food. And she actually had a mystical experience of how the Lord accepts the food. And it actually becomes prasada. Everything in life should be offered to the Lord and accepted back as prasada. Not just food. Clothes. You get a new pair of clothes. It was a practice in India. You get a new pair of a shirt or trousers, offer it mentally to the Lord, and you take it back as prasada. Everything. Any new, even a new gadget you buy or an iPhone or something, offer it to the Lord, and you take it back as prasada. Everything becomes divinized.
Please don't let the screen break. Please don't let the screen break. $2,000 down the drain. I don't know.
It's prasada. This practice of offering everything to God is very important, because there's a saying that if you take one step towards God, God takes 10 steps towards you. Everything in spiritual life is done by the grace of God. But we should also do our little bit to help the grace of God. Yeah. How do you help God? By offering all that is the Lord's back to the Lord. Tvadiyam eva vastu Govinda tubhyam samarpaye. Oh Krishna, it is your own. Whatever all these things are, they belong to you, and I offer them back to you. In Bengali, there is a saying, Ganga Jale Ganga Puja. You worship the Ganges with the Ganges water. Ganges water is supposed to be holy. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, 3 things are visible Brahman on earth. 3 things are visible, Pratyaksha Brahma, visible Brahman, the Lord present in 3 things. And what are the 3 things? One is the water of the Ganges. The other is the dust of Vrindavan. Vrindavan Raja. The dust of Vrindavan. And the third thing is the rice offering to Jagannath er Atkil. Yes. So these three things are supposed to be manifest Brahman on earth. Now you worship the Ganges with Ganges water. Whatever you worship the Lord with belongs to the Lord. So you're just acknowledging that I am returning unto you what is thine. In Sanskrit, the word for grace is kripa. Kripa means grace. Everything is done by the grace of God, so we can only beg for the grace of God. But one Swami said, somebody went to Swami Vishuddhananda, who was the president of the Ramakrishna order a long time ago. Maharaj, kripa karun, have grace upon us. And the Swami, after some time, said, don't you know the meaning of kripa? The Sanskrit word kripa has two parts, kri and pa. If you split it up that way, kri means to do something, and pa means to get something. So first you do something, then only you get something. This whole practice of offering back to the Lord everything in life, our possessions, our relationships, our the food we eat, the clothes we wear, everything in life, the activities that we do, everything, the speech that we utter, even the thoughts we have, offering it continuously back to the Lord. This practice is called in Sanskrit nyasa. Nyasa means giving up. You see, in spiritual life, we notice in all religions, there is a stepping back from the world, a little turning away from the world. When you become a monk, when a person becomes a monk, we give up a father and mother and brother and sister and all family relationships. We give up all our material possessions and we dedicate our lives to the Lord. So that is giving up. Now that is difficult. That is strenuous, and that's not practical for most people in the world. Here is the magic of love, the higher form of love. How can you do exactly what a monk does, yet without actually cutting off everything physically from the world? You can continue your life in the world, but mentally, inside, in your heart, in your mind, continuously offer up everything to the Lord. This continuous offering up everything to the Lord is as good as, or even better than, the renunciation of the monk. It is called nyasa in Sanskrit, giving up to the Lord. So the activities continue. Your life in the world continues as it is, but you have given up everything to the Lord, and everything in your life is prasada. It is divinized. The grace of the Lord has a whole spectrum. You see, when one first gets fear, it may start with fear of God. It may start with fear of social criticism. It may start with fear of sin. That also is the grace of God. It is the beginning of the grace of God. So self-control, which starts with fear, with modesty, with a sense of shame. I should not do this. What will people say? The police are going to get me. Or what are people in my church or my temple going to say about me? It starts with that. That is also a grace of God. That is the dawning of the grace of God. Some good sense is knocked into us.
I would have never thought shame or like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble as that. I understand good sense. That makes more sense than, being shamed or saying, oh no, maybe I'm doing something bad.
And so that's how it starts. But that's not the higher love. What we are speaking about is all of that self-control. All of that comes because I love God. The Lord will be annoyed. The Lord will be unhappy if I do these things. The Lord will be unhappy if I say such things. The Lord will be unhappy if I think such things. I love the Lord. I cannot make him unhappy.
I guess it's not necessarily the fact that it's shame or anything like that, but it's the understanding of the things that you're doing. It's like, well, that would not make him happy. It's not, and it's weird to say that shame, because shame is in Western world looked at very badly. So it's like understanding that what certain things will do will be not good, and certain things they'll do will be good, and that's a different framing of how I would say that. It's really weird to say shame or, oh, I'm going to get in trouble by doing this, as though this is something that you wanted to do, but more along the lines is understanding that these are good things and these are bad things, and you don't want to do bad things. Again, just it's a way of framing the word, framing what is, I guess, trying to say, as far as I'm understanding.
And hence self-control comes. Nyasa. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita, there is a beautiful verse in the 9th chapter. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyaham. Those who continuously think of me, pray to me, work for me. Exactly what we have been speaking about. All your life is transformed into this ananya. Ananya means not anything else. Other than God, not anything else. Those people, those devotees who worship me in all ways, the Lord says, Krishna says in the Gita, Tesham nityabhiyuktanam, those who are constantly engaged in the thought, in the prayer, in love of God. Yogakshema vahamyaham, I take care of them. Very important point. Krishna says in the Gita, I take care of them. Because the question will arise, so if I keep thinking about God, what's going to happen to my life? Who's going to take care of my financial responsibilities, my family responsibilities, my job, my health, all of that? And Sri Krishna says, God will take responsibility. If you throw all your responsibility upon God, then God takes responsibility for you. Yogakshema here means whatever you need in life, what you need, not greed, but what is needed, that will be supplied by God. And whatever you have in life, who's going to take care of all of this? People in my life, my house, my car, and my dog, who's going to take care? And God says, I will take care of you. I'll take care of you. What you have, I will protect, kshema. What you do not have, what you require, I shall add unto you. In the Bible also the same thing. It shall be added unto you, whatever you need. Seek first the Lord, and whatever you need on this earth will be added unto you. And Krishna, look at the word Krishna uses there. Vahamyaham. I shall bear, I shall carry it on my shoulders and take to the devotee. Not that I shall grant. Vahami in Sanskrit means I shall carry unto the devotee. I shall protect the devotee. I shall carry it to the devotee. There is a beautiful story about Tulsidas, who wrote the Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas. He was staying in Kashi, in Banaras at that time. And some rich people had come and given some stuff to him, some gifts to the saint. And the thieves had noticed it, the robbers. Oh, the saint has got nice stuff in his hut. So they wanted to rob him at night. They were keeping a watch. Late in the night, when they were sure that the saint had gone to sleep, Tulsidas had gone to sleep, they began to sneak up to the hut where he lived. They saw two young boys standing with bow and arrow there. Yeah. They're standing. One was a little dark, one was fair. They're standing there and patrolling all around the hut. They withdrew, the thieves withdrew. And then again they came back a little later. Again the same two very strange, these two wonderful young men standing there with the bow and arrow. And then in fear they withdrew again. Throughout the night they tried to come close, but then they couldn't. I mean, anybody who knows Tulsidas and Ramayana would know that is Rama and Lakshmana. That is the story. It's a well-known story. Rama and Lakshmana were patrolling the house. Next morning, because they had the vision of Rama and Lakshmana, the thieves were transformed. They went to the feet. They went to the saint and fell at his feet and said, "Lord, Swami, forgive us. We wanted to rob you, but we could not. But tell us, who were these strange people you have employed, your bodyguards? Yeah, who were there and they looked like this and they had a bow and arrow." And immediately Tulsidas had tears in his eyes. But look at his reaction. "Oh, because I have accumulated these goods in my house and it's attracting robbers and the Lord is troubled. The Lord has to come and protect me all night long because I am accumulating all this." Immediately he called the poor people of the neighborhood and donated whatever he had in his little hut. Because the Lord should not be troubled. The Lord himself does that. Another beautiful story. Jagannath Mishra. He was a great Pandit and a great Vaishnava in Puri. He wrote a commentary, and not only the Gita, I think most of the Mahabharata probably in Sanskrit. He and his wife used to live there, and he would be a scholar. He would write a commentary on the scriptures in Sanskrit. So when he came to this verse where Krishna says, "Yoga kshema vahamyaham," I carry whatever is necessary and I protect whatever is to be protected for the devotee. Now, the Jagannath Mishra thought, Vahami is too much. I carry is too much. Why should the Lord carry something for the devotee? This is not proper. So he said it must be a mistake. And he cut it out with a pen, on those quills they had. And he wrote, Dadamyaham, I gave, I grant. The Lord says, I grant what is necessary for the devotee, not I carry. So he cut it out. Now that day, there was no food in their house, and his wife was worried. And she saw, and there was nothing to cook, but she saw this very nice looking young kid coming with a bundle on his head. And when he came and he said, your husband, the Pandit, he has sent all this. This is all. He opened the bundle and she saw all the materials for food, and everything was there, and they would have a sumptuous meal. But she saw, to her horror, a red cut on the boy's face. And she says, who did this to you? This is horrible. Who hurt you? And the boy shrugged. Your husband did. He cut me across the face. And then he walked away, and she was so heartbroken at this. When her husband returned, and she said, what's happened to you in your old age? You lost your wits or what? That young boy is so nice, you sent all the food with him, but why did you hit him? What possessed you to hit the little boy, and he's hurt, he was bleeding. And then Jagannath Mishra immediately understood. He immediately rushed to his Gita, and he opened the page where he had cut it out. Vahamyaham, I bear. He cut it out. He erased that and he put it back as it was. Not that I grant, I bear. It's literally true, my Lord. You bear for your devotees. So, the Lord will take care of life. When Narendranath, he was in very bad condition. His father had died, he didn't have a job, and his family was in debt, and he had younger brothers and sisters to take care of. He was desperate. So he went to Sri Ramakrishna and he said, you pray to your mother Kali, so that so at least my family will get something to eat. How can I become a monk or seek for God when my family is starving? And Sri Ramakrishna said, why don't you pray to the mother? I don't pray for such things. So Narendranath said, look, you believe in her and you see her and you talk to her, so pray to her. It's not really my thing. The staunch non-dualist. Sri Ramakrishna said, no, you have to do it. I don't pray for such things. So Narendranath went, and late in the night, and then he came back drunk, as if in ecstasy of love. And Ramakrishna asked him, what happened? When I went there to pray, I had a vision of the Divine Mother. She was there, she's real, she's alive, she's there. Oh, did you ask? Yes, I asked for devotion, for love, for jnana, for knowledge, for dispassion, for detachment from the world, so that I can have one-pointed devotion to God. Ramakrishna said, yeah, that's all right, but did you ask for money and for food for your family? Narendranath said, no, how could I forgot everything when I saw the mother. Ramakrishna said, you are more impractical than me. Go back there and ask. So he sent Narendranath back again. The second time, the same thing happened. He said, I saw the mother again, but I asked for love and devotion and spiritual knowledge and dispassion, vairagya. Only for spirituality, nothing worldly. Sri Ramakrishna sent him back a third time. It means there's still time. Go back, you young fool. Go and ask. You need money. You need food for you. That's what you wanted, isn't it? Third time also Narendranath came back. I could not ask for that. I can't ask for such things from God. You see, he is a devotee of this higher category we are talking about, who wants nothing from God, even though he needs it. When he goes in front of God, when he goes in front of the Lord, he is not, I am Narendranath, my mother and my younger brother and sister are starving, we are in debt, I don't have a job, please help me. No. All of that disappears. No matter how much the problems in life, nothing of that in his mind. I love God, I am thine, thou art mine. That's all that he can pray for. Third time also he could not do that. Then Sri Ramakrishna, you see, Yoga Kshema Vahamyam, Sri Ramakrishna said, all right, he was very happy secretly. That's what he wanted from Narendranath. He said, all right, Mota bhat kapode abhav hobe na, your family will never lack plain food and clothes. He never said that they're going to become millionaires. They'll just get by. I assure you that much. And that they did, definitely. So the Lord takes care of his own.
Okay, I have to pause it right there. Actually, I wanted to do a question. Because I don't know if I'm getting. I'm reading a lot of comments, and there's some questions I want to answer, but I don't think there's necessarily enough of them. But I don't want to. I don't want it to go by for so long without answering them because they're pretty good questions. And so I'm gonna pause it real quick and go find the question and answer it here. I'll be right back. Okay, so the question is, or not question, actually, one of the comments is, I feel Bhakti and Jnana is the hardest part. You need high IQ for path of knowledge and reasoning. You need a lot of love and devotion for an unseen God to path of Bhakti. But for path of meditation, that is Raja, you have the following to give meditation techniques. That's it, not hard at all. That's actually very interesting. When I first read it, I said, Bhakti's kind of easy. Knowledge is hard, for sure. I don't know if you need high IQ. I think you need wisdom and intelligence. I think IQ as intelligence, and I think wisdom as common sense. I think Sadhguru has very high wisdom, and his intelligence is a lot higher than what he claims to be. He claims to be stupid, but he is definitely far from that. He is very, very wise, very high wisdom. Wisdom's not something that you can get from books. Not necessarily, unless you start reading about philosophy, which you can gain wisdom. But how you use the wisdom is also part of wisdom too. So Bhakti to me would seem to be the easier one. It's kind of weird to say that's a hard one, but whenever you say an unseen God to path, I can understand that now actually. But if you already have this, I wonder if people have this yearning to follow, to be accepted, to be part of the group, and I think that is true. We look at human history that we've always been social animals. So I think that's the reason why Bhakti being a very easy path is because we want to be accepted, and that's whether we be accepted by someone physically in front of us or by a divine being. And Jnana, I still don't know exactly what knowledge do you need. What is the knowledge that you seek? Is it understanding how a pen works is knowledge, or understanding what the pen is made out of is knowledge, or what kind of knowledge exactly is needed to know that you are Brahmin? Well, okay, just say I accept that. Is that good enough knowledge? I don't think so. So what it is about knowledge and reasoning? Perhaps the method that I was thinking about is about understanding life and understanding your situation. Again, the two things that I keep saying that I forget about for some odd reason, but understanding being one of them. Perhaps that is the way. I don't know. Perhaps the things that I've been doing is. Anyway, I'm starting to see that a lot of things they're doing are kind of in these teachings, but I just never knew about it. So I understand Jnana. I do wonder if the gurus and swamis have like an order of what's the easiest and the hardest to do. I feel that meditation, though, Raja, being the hardest because you have to have a steady or clear mind. You can't, and body, because if you're itching, that's going to be distracting. And if your mind is thinking about other things, like Swami here says that your mind's like a little child that gets bored so easily, and it's constantly wanting to think about doing other things, and you can't meditate. To me, I think meditation might be the hardest. I thought it would be. And my reasoning for that is, one, your mind's always active. Two, a lot of the I was going to say a lot of the gurus and swamis that I've watched, but it could be just the videos that I watch, talks about the three karma, bhakti, and jnana. Especially with Swami Chinmayananda, talks about the BMI, which and how I translate it as your karma, bhakti, and your jnana, and the one above those is raja, which is meditation, because you need to settle your body, your mind, and your emotions before you can meditate. Because if your emotions are being rampant, you can't meditate, you can't focus. If you're constantly thinking of things, you can't meditate, you can't focus. If your body's constantly itching and twitching, you can't meditate, you can't focus. So you have to settle all three of those before you can do Raja. That's from my understanding so far. So let's see. In Bhakti, a lot of people are already kind of there. A lot of people are religious. You look back at human history. Lightning. We thought there's a lightning god, or a mud god, or a rain god, and so throughout entire human history, there's always this belief in some divine being. So for most of the population, Bhakti is already kind of there for them. Knowledge. Now, I'm not sure. Again, I don't know what is needed to obtain awareness or moksha, I believe, to get jnana and karma. It's karma and bhakti seems about to be the same, because you must act pure, think purely. I think, if I understand it correctly, and that's something that's kind of difficult too. So that's the reason why I think Bhakti, I feel that Bhakti is the easiest, and a lot of gurus and swamis say that way, because again, most humans already believe in a divine being, a higher power, and just to kind of point them in the right direction seems to be a lot easier than having to reason with them, physical and thinking actions with them, and meditation. Especially in the Western world, and no, not necessarily the Western world, especially in areas, in metropolitan areas, where there's it's so busy with life, nightlife, corporate life, party life, life. It's just so busy, so many things to think about, that to calm your mind is so difficult. That's merely my opinion. But man, if you can, I think, again, in my opinion, if you can do Raja Yoga being the easiest, I think you nailed all three automatically. Just because to be able to quiet your mind alone, to subdue bhakti, karma, and jnana, well, mostly karma, the thoughts and the actions, and then bhakti, your emotions, that's quite, in my personal opinion, quite the achievement. I've definitely not done any meditation or calm my mind. I don't know if I ever have, actually. Perhaps my brain just dies sometimes and I don't realize it. maybe. And Yogi over here in the comments says, true, there are different types of people, and the easiest way is the hardest for some, and some vice versa. What is hard and easy depends on who you are. 100% agree, and that's very much so. Like I said, Raja, if you nailed that, that is really good in my opinion. Me, I think I have to go brain dead, and I think it happens a lot more frequently than I think, just because I'm sure there are times where my brain's not working at all, and I'm just completely unaware of it, and I don't know it. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because to be unaware if you're just not thinking about anything, but I try knowledge mostly in karma. Devotion I do in terms of I devote myself into what I do with karma and jnana. So I am definitely more than likely those three, but not fully bhakti. Bhakti, I don't devote everything to God or to myself or to God. I devote, I guess, the things that has more meaning, and that's what I devote a lot to. And sadly enough, there's not a lot of that. There are a few and very small accounts that I can think of, but the bigger things that I want to do is practically impossible for me. But anyways, okay, that's I want to answer a question maybe at the end of every video, and probably ask the question at the beginning, then answer at the end. Anyways, that's my reaction to The Way of Love, at least the first half of this. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.